It's the championship game. You're standing on the free throw line. 3 seconds left on the clock. The score is tied. This is your moment. Don't miss your shot. You feel the leather of the basketball in your hands. Your heart's pounding out of your chest. You hear the crowd around you going wild. You take a deep breath. You dribble twice, and you shoot. The ball flies through the air, bounces on the rim, bounce, 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 and falls out of the basket. You missed your shot. You cover your head in shame. You fall to your knees in defeat. You missed your moment. You see, it's the achiever's greatest fear, to reach that moment and to watch it all crumble in the dust. You see, what if you had one shot? What if you had one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted? Would you capture it? Would you let it slip away? Why do we chase this horizon? I think we chase this horizon in part because we believe when we reach the horizon, when we succeed, when we achieve, well, then we'll find happiness. Well, if that's happiness, then how are we going to find it? Well, first you're going to need drive. A drive like Nikola Tesla, who claimed to work from 3 a.m. to 11 p.m., no exception, Sundays or holidays. A drive that earned him the reputation as a true mad scientist. But you see, you can't only have drive, you're also going to need passion. Because you can't just chase anything, you have to chase that one thing. The one thing that separates you from everyone else. The one thing that makes you come alive. The integration between what you do best and what you absolutely love to do. And when you pursue happiness in this way, I call it pursuing the achiever's formula. Happiness equaling drive plus passion. This formula is the lifeblood of the entrepreneur. It's the lifeblood of the overachiever. It's my story. It's my quest for enough, trying to find happiness in the achievements. One more, and maybe one more, and maybe one more. MVP of 3 sports, valedictorian, full ride to college, CFP, MBA, helping to start a business, traveling the world, trying to find happiness in one more step, and yet missing happiness in the moment. You see, we're a culture, though, that champions this mindset, right? Champions this obsession. Red rim eyes that deny sleep, because sleep is for the weak. Sleep is for those who settle. What are our coffee addictions but merely proof of our absolute dedication to success? But happiness equaling drive plus passion, don't drive and passion take a long time to pay off? And if happiness is always one more step up the achiever's ladder, then how am I ever going to get there? And all of a sudden, this formula starts to look like, I get one shot for years of continuous effort? That doesn't sound like a good formula to me. So what do? We think, well, that doesn't sound so great. Let's adopt the cruiser's formula, which is what I call happiness equaling reality minus your expectations. And what's the greatest amount of happiness you can achieve with this formula? Well, easy. Get rid of your expectations. Well, that just sounds awesome, right? Get rid of my expectations. That sounds like the biggest expectation of all time. I mean, I have expectation when I walk into Starbucks and order my coffee, right? And so what do? We say, okay, well, I can't get rid of them, but what if I hide it? What if I bury it? What if I deny the fact that I have any expectations? Will that bring me happiness? And so, of course, instead, what do we get, right? Just tell me what you want. And you look at the world and you think, but I don't know. I don't know what I want. How can I find what I want if I don't even know what it is? And not only that, but sometimes we're on the other side of this, right? Trying to help someone find happiness, and yet them saying, I don't know, I don't care. Because isn't it cooler to just go with the flow? Isn't it nicer to not care? But what's the biggest problem with this, I think, is there is so much happiness in expectation, isn't there? You see, we seek and we pursue and we plan because we expect something of life. We don't want to just put our life on cruise control and glide through life. We want to have drive and passion. We want to go after something. And when you have these two formulas, you end up with this continuum. Either trying to find happiness in the past, just setting your life on cruise control and whatever, that's what it is. Or looking for it in the future, trying to find happiness in the achievement, trying to find happiness in that horizon. But I think it's time for a new equation. I think we can find happiness at every step and every stage and every level of the journey. And I call it finding your minimum viable happiness. What is minimum viable happiness? the focused pursuit of the three most important components of your happiness in every stage and every situation in life. Where did this concept come from? I took it from minimum viable product. And what is minimum viable product? Many of you know this term. Product designers used to have a different question that they were asking. You see, they used to ask, what's the most amount of features that we can stick into a product so that everyone everywhere will love it? Well, what happened? It took 5 years, 10 years, and then when it came out to the market, consumers would look at the product and say, I don't actually need all of these. In fact, it's too many features. Can you just simplify it? And so today they're asking a different question. They're asking not how many, but what are the most important? What are the most important components that the customer would want right now? And I think it's time we look at our lives with the same question. Instead of, what is the most I need for happiness? What are the most important? And then focus, and find those. Instead of looking at your life and saying, I want 50 donuts with sprinkles and glaze and it'll never happen. Instead asking, how could I get a tasty glazed donut right now? I think it's time we find happiness in the midst of our passion, in the trenches of our drive. Drive times passion, raise to your minimum viable happiness. Because when you focus, when you prioritize, when you find the three things in every area, in every stage, you don't just produce happiness, you produce exponential happiness. I know what you're thinking. How does this look in my life, though? How can I make this work? What does this look like in my career? My father and I get to work with entrepreneurs every day, and we ask them all the same question. In the next 3 years, what has to happen for you to be happy with your progress? And then we take those 3 years and we break it down. 2 years, 1 year, 1 month. What's powerful about this question? Number one, they have to define what they want. Define what you want. And you know what's interesting to me? They always come up with 3 things. First, define what you want. Second, own it. See, want what you want because you want it. We spend so much time in our lives trying to justify what we want. This is what the culture says I should want. This is what my job says I should want. This is what my family and my friends say I could want. Just, want what you want because you want it. Don't try to justify it, and then go for it. What does this look like in my living situation? What if you wanted to live on a beachfront property like this, but you only had $10,000? Well, the Achievers formula would say, hey, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, maybe you could get it. If you apply all your drive and your passion and you don't do anything else, maybe you'll get there. What does the cruise controller's formula say? Easy. Forget about it, right? That expectation is unbelievable. You'll never make that. Why don't you just stay in your townhouse with your roommate and accept life as it is, right? But what does minimum viable happiness say? I have $10,000. What do I really want? You see, Tim Ferriss likes to say, you don't want $1 million. You want what you think $1 million can bring. So what do you think $1 million can bring? And maybe you look at your living situation, you think, wow, I really just want a space of my own. I want a place to swim in a pool. I want a place to have people over. Welcome to my swanky apartment complex. Look at that beautiful pool. Isn't that amazing? But what does this look like in relationships? What does this look like when I travel? When I was a senior in college, I had the opportunity to go to Austria, which was incredible, right? And we had 1 week to do everything we wanted. And we thought, wait a second, people have expectations when they travel. Maybe we should figure this out before. So we all sat down and we said, what's the one thing, just name one thing that you really want to do, and we'll make that happen. So John wanted to go hiking in the Austrian Alps. Scotty wanted to have a really nice dinner. Sarah wanted to hang out at a German lake. And me, I wanted to do something dangerous. So we went on a swing 300 meters up in the air in Vienna, and it was awesome. But what's so powerful about this was when you define one thing instead of 50 things that you want to do, well, instead of fighting the whole time trying to get what we all wanted, instead we got to enter in and enjoy into everyone else's minimum viable happiness. You see, we did things that I wouldn't have even thought about. And because we had finished our one thing, there was space, so much space. Because one thing for each of us didn't take all week. And so we got to be spontaneous. We got to go frolicking in the palace gardens, and we got to go biking along the Salzburg River. And in the end, we didn't just experience happiness, we experienced exponential happiness. What's your minimum viable happiness? Maybe you want to travel the world in retirement, but instead you think, why don't we just do it now? Why don't we take our 6-year-old son and see the world right now, like some of my friends did from back home? Maybe you want to have impact on the world. Maybe you want to go to Africa and save all the babies in Africa and start an orphanage. And instead you decide, why don't I just take care of these 4 right now, like one of my best friends in college did? But maybe your minimum viable happiness isn't just making yourself happy. Maybe it's making everyone else happy around you as well. We have our own testament in Wilmington, North Carolina. Amy Wright starts a coffee shop because she wants her son and people with developmental disabilities to be able to live and interact and work with the public every single day. What's powerful about this picture? First, look at her face. That's happiness. And not only that, but look at everyone else's faces. Everyone else experienced exponential happiness because she decided to define and own and pursue her minimum viable happiness. But it doesn't have to be something crazy big. It can be something simple, like maybe tomorrow your minimum viable happiness being having a Starbucks with one of your best friends and eating a cupcake. Maybe it's spending time with the people you love the most and taking photo shoots on the floor of a hotel. You see, what if someone looked at you and said, my minimum viable happiness for today? Being with you, because that's enough. How powerful could that be? But I know what you're thinking. Whoa. I'm an achiever. I still want to go after that horizon. What about my horizon? Go after your horizon. Go after it with drive and with passion. Why? Because you now have freedom. Because your hope for happiness isn't in the horizon anymore. You're finding it at every step and every stage and every moment of the journey. And not only that, but there's so much power in finding your minimum viable happiness. Why? Because the Greeks defined happiness as the joy in pursuing your potential. The joy in pursuing your potential. You see, minimum viable happiness doesn't distract you from your horizon. Instead, it gives you fuel. And not just fuel, but you know what might just happen? You might find yourself reaching for a new horizon. Because when you define what you want at every step and every stage of the journey, you might find yourself reaching for a new horizon, a horizon you actually want, a horizon that you want to apply with drive and passion. You see, I don't believe you only have one shot for happiness. In fact, I believe you have tons of shots. I believe you have so many moments for happiness if you grab them and play with them and enjoy them, right? Because the journey to enough starts with finding your minimum viable happiness. So find your minimum viable happiness. Define it. Own it. Make waves. Watch the ripple effect change the world. You see, I think if everyone found their minimum viable happiness, when you defined and owned what you wanted, I think we'd create a unique, happier version of the world. I think it's a world worth living in. I think it's a world worth creating. Do you? Do you think it's a world worth living in? Do you think it's a world worth creating? You see, finding your minimum viable happiness, it's about seeking, savoring, and soaking in the moment. Because happiness isn't just a destination. It isn't just a place. It's a space that you create. We started with a quote, and I think we should end with one as well. See, what if you had a lifetime of shots, an infinite number of possibilities for happiness? Would you grab them with all the expectation and the passion and the drive that you could muster? Or would you just let it pass you by? My question for you today is, see the choice today, the choice is yours. Thank you.